Don in London, hello. It's May 14th. My video is all about recovery from addiction to either substance or behaviour. My addictive substance, alcohol. And my behaviour could be equally addictive around people, places and things. So, with a drink in hand, I wanted to be in the right place, with the right people, with the right things, in the right relationship with the right girl. Have enough money? No, I wanted lots of money, perfect amount of money, lots of it, and then I would be okay. So, what happened to me? Well, drink in hand, most of the time, taking the edge off, being the life and soul of the party whenever I got to a party, and trying to be whatever I thought I ought to be, looking at the world and thinking, if I get it right, I'll be okay, and people will like me, and I'll be in the right place with the right person at the right time, romantic and rich. Well, it didn't quite work out that way. Drink took me to extraordinary heights of living and working as hard as I possibly could. And it was interesting, as other parts of my life fell away. The only thing that kept me going in the end was my careering, trying to be better at whatever I was doing. And the rest of my life had gone somewhere. Where? Well, I wasn't keeping an eye out for what I was doing, and not what the world was doing to me. I thought the world was at fault, and not me. So these days, I've learned that my drinking was heavy, always associated with people who drank a lot, always connected with people who worked hard and played hard. And in the end, all I had was me, a park bench, and a drink in my hand. And even then, I didn't know how to say, please help me. It took a while to say absolutely I was powerless over alcohol, and life had got to a place where it was what people call the jumping off point. It's not worth living, and it's hard enough to die. We just want to crawl away and perish. So these days it's not like that. I did ask for help in the end. I realised it could get no worse, and made attempts for help. And even then it was quite difficult. So life was difficult. In the end I did ask for help, and I got help, and it came in the form of family, friends, medical people, and it also came in the form of a fellowship, and that fellowship is AA, Alcoholics Anonymous. And without AA, I don't know that I would ever found a way to be sober, one day at a time. And that is the gift for me. All I have to do is be sober, and the rest of life can work as it may. It doesn't make it happy or sad, it just makes it possible. And then if life is happy, I am happy, often. And if life is sad because of circumstances, I am sad. And that is what sober does. It affords us the luxury of being happy or sad as life is. And I feel very fortunate. So the Fellowship of AA, Alcoholics Anonymous, a place where I go, what I see is what I get. It's attraction, not promotion. So when we go, if anybody goes to AA, we see how life is for other people. We hear the truth that people have. And sometimes it's wonderful, and sometimes it's extraordinarily sad. So it is, what you see is what you get. And we learn from their wisdom how they stay sober, or how we stay sober, one day at a time, regardless. And if we're sober, we can cope. And if we're coping with life, then life is as best it can be. So I have enormous gratitude that I was able to start learning again. And that's what I had to do. It wasn't my answer to my problems on a daily basis. It was the wisdom I learned to find the answers on a daily basis. The good news is I don't speak for anybody in AA. Everyone is unique and authentic on their own personal life journey or life path. And that means I cannot speak for them, and I don't want to. But if I didn't speak out about my recovery, I don't know that it would help anyone. So I have a voice, and I share it as best I can. So by sharing my experience, strength and hope of recovery, I hope it helps another person. And if it helps one person, one day, job done. So, what is AA? I will share the AA preamble that we hear whenever we go to meetings, and it goes like this. Alcoholics Anonymous is a fellowship of men and women who share their experience, strength and hope with each other, that they may solve their common problem and help others to recover from alcoholism. The only requirement for membership is a desire to stop drinking, and it's only a simple desire to stop drinking. There are no dues or fees for AA membership. We are self-supporting through our own contributions. AA is not allied with any sect, denomination, politics, organisation or institution, does not wish to engage in any controversy, neither endorses nor opposes any causes. Our primary purpose is to stay sober and help other alcoholics to achieve sobriety. And that's it. So, a desire to be sober, share the message, and everyone's unique and authentic on their own life path. So, in that vein, although we don't have affiliations as a fellowship, every single person in the fellowship is affiliated to something, family, community, some connection to something out there. But we put all those affiliations and personal beliefs aside when it comes to sobriety. We share our message as best we can with each other. So the idea is, if AA were a cult, you would have to conform and comply. And the absolute truth of AA, if you really get the message, is you don't conform and you don't comply to a set of rules and regulations, because there aren't any. All AA is 12 suggestions to keep sober and 12 suggested traditions to keep the fellowship together. So for a person, it's about being open, honest and willing to change and be a part of life again. And when it comes to the traditions, it's about unity, service and recovery. And these are not laws or rules, and they cannot be violated. They are merely suggestions on how to live and how to be. And we all have our own interpretation of how that will be. So that's it. The desire to stop drinking, I should stop now, and I say go to meetings. And then you don't have to do anything else. But I share some of the readings from AA just in case people can't get to meetings, or if you're stuck, isolated, and want somewhere, some knowledge of what is possible. And with the internet, there are many, many websites out there who have all the information and all the actions that people take on a daily basis to stay sober. And the only action really is don't drink, and then see what happens. As long as we have humility to keep on learning. And humility doesn't mean we are servile or subservient. Humility simply means open to learn life a day at a time. And there are various books. This is the main one. AA's big book. It's quite thick and covered in coffee stains, mine. Shouldn't read in bed, should I? And this one, which I refer to regularly, every day, Daily Reflections. It covers one of the steps a month. 12 steps to keep in recovery. 12 steps to live sober so life can work. And there's this book I often refer to as well, 12 Steps and 12 Traditions. And between those three, you've probably got, in a nutshell, everything you would ever need to start being your unique, authentic self and live life to the best it can be. It doesn't guarantee a wonderful life. Although even in the worst of circumstances these days, I feel wonderful about the fact that I'm alive to experience life. Because I took it too far, too often, and had times in intensive care, which I had a lot of bravado about when I first came into the fellowship. I thought it was almost like a rite of passage, but it turned out, from my point of view, to almost be a rite of stupidity, because it almost wiped me out. And I was looking in, well, AA's big book is full of, it's got so much wisdom in it, I can't tell you. And it's about being sober, mostly, and then life happening. In this one, page 413 through to 418, it talks about acceptance was the answer. And the acceptance piece is well known to anybody in the fellowship. It's a favourite reading shared at the beginning of meetings. Meetings are, we start it up, maybe have a reading, talk about some aspect of the fellowship programme. And when I talk about fellowship programme, it sounds like you're being indoctrinated. Well, again, it's suggestions around life working with freedom to choose. It's about freedom to choose sober life, and then sober life is all about freedom of choice. But from 413, it's very pertinent to me and everybody, I think. So I'll read it from 413. In the hospital, I'd hung on to the idea I had most of my life, and that's how I felt too, that if I could just control the external environment, that is, control everything outside me, the internal environment, that's what's going on in my head, would then become comfortable. Much of my time was spent writing letters, notes, orders and lists of things for Max, this is his wife, who was also my office nurse, to do to keep the world running while I was locked up, and this is in a sanatorium in the States decades ago. One has to be pretty sick to do that, and perhaps one has to be even sicker to come back every day for a new list, as she did. Today we don't have to live that way. Max still works with me in the office, but we have turned our wills and our lives over to the care of God. Each with the other as a witness, we took the third step out loud, just as it says in the big book, and life keeps getting simpler and easier as we try to reverse my old idea by taking care of the internal environment, that's what goes on inside each other's head, via the 12 steps, and letting the external environment take care of itself. So rather than trying to rule the world, just be aware of what's going on inside us. Let go of trying to rule everything and let in wisdom so we can live amicably. One day, as I sat there in the hospital, my psychiatrist walked up behind me and asked, How do you like to talk to the man from AA? My reaction was that I'd already helped all the patients on the ward, and I still had plenty of problems of my own without trying to help some drunk from AA. But by the look on the psychiatrist's face, I could tell that it would really make him happy if I agreed. So, for no better reason than to make him happy, I agreed. Very shortly, I realized that had been a mistake. When this big clown came bounding into the room, almost shouting, "My name is Frank and I'm an alcoholic. Ha ha ha." I really felt sorry for him. The only thing in life he had to brag about was the fact that he was an alcoholic. It wasn't until later that he told me he was an attorney. Against my better judgment, I went to a meeting with him that night, and a strange thing began to happen. The psychiatrist, who had generally been ignoring me, now became quite interested. Every day he would ask me all kinds of questions about the AA meetings. At first I wondered whether he was alcoholic himself and was sending me to find out about AA. But it quickly became obvious that he had this childish notion instead. If he could get me to go to enough meetings while in hospital, I would continue to go after he let me out. So, for no better reason than to fool him, I asked Frank to take me to a meeting every night. And Frank did set me up for a meeting every night, except Friday, when he thought he might have a date with his girlfriend. That's a devil of a way to run an organisation, I thought, and I reported Frank to the psychiatrist, who didn't seem perturbed. He just got someone else to take me on Fridays. Eventually the psychiatrist discharged me from the hospital, and Max and I began to go to meetings ourselves. Right from the start I felt that they weren't doing anything for me, but they sure were helping Max. We sat in the back and talked only to each other. It was precisely a year before I spoke at an AA meeting. Although we enjoyed the laughter in the early days, I heard a lot of things that I thought were stupid. I interpreted sober as meaning drinking but not being drunk. When a big healthy-looking fellow stood up there and said, "Yeah, I'm a success today if I don't drink today," I thought, man, I've got 1,000 things to do today before I can brag about not taking a drink, for God's sake. Of course, I was still drinking at the time. Today, there is absolutely nothing in the world more important to me than my keeping this alcoholic sober. Not taking a drink is by far the most important thing I do each day. It seemed that all they talked about at meetings was drinking, drinking, drinking. It made me thirsty. Used to make me thirsty too. I wanted to talk about my many big problems. Drinking seemed a small one, and I knew that giving up one drink for one day wouldn't really do any good. Finally, after 7 months, I decided to try it. To this day, I am amazed at how many of my problems, most of which had nothing to do with drinking, I believed, have become manageable or have simply disappeared since I quit drinking. I had already given up all the narcotics, most of the pills, and some of the alcohol when I first came to AA. By early July, I had tapered off alcohol completely, and I got off all pills in the ensuing months. When the compulsion to drink left, it was relatively easy to stay off alcohol, but for some time it was difficult to keep from taking a pill when I had an appropriate symptom, such as a cough, pain, anxiety, insomnia, a muscle spasm, or an upset stomach. It has gotten progressively easier. Today I feel I've used up my right to chemical peace of mind. And chemical peace of mind is a very interesting statement, because we are a big chemistry set. But if the chemistry set is set at normal, with no narcotics or opiates going in of any kind, then we have a chance for a balance in our chemistry set. That's my side. But continuing, it helped me a great deal to become convinced that alcoholism was a disease, not a moral issue, that I had been drinking as a result of a compulsion, even though I had not been aware of the compulsion at the time. And that was me. I was ignorant that I was compelled by a physical and emotional need, and then a want, and then addiction. And that sobriety was not a matter of willpower. The people of AA had something that looked much better than what I had, but I was afraid to let go of what I had in order to try something new. There was a certain sense of security in the familiar, going back to old habits. At last, acceptance proved to be the key to my drinking problem. After I'd been round in AA for 7 months, tapering off alcohol and pills, not finding the program working very well, I was finally able to say, "Okay, God, it is true that I, of all people, strange as it may seem, and even though I didn't give my permission, really am an alcoholic of sorts, and it's all right with me. Now, what am I going to do about it?" When I stopped living in the problem and began living in the answer, the problem went away. From that moment on, I have not had a single compulsion to drink. And acceptance is the answer to all my problems today. When I am disturbed, it is because I find some person, place, thing, or situation, some fact of my life, unacceptable to me, and I can find no serenity until I accept that person, place, thing, or situation as being exactly the way it is supposed to be at this moment. Nothing, absolutely nothing, happens in God's world by mistake. Until I could accept my alcoholism, I could not stay sober, unless I accept my life, accept life, completely on life's terms. I cannot be happy. I need to concentrate not so much on what needs to be changed in the world, as on what needs to be changed in me and my attitudes. Shakespeare said, "All the world's a stage, and all the men and women merely players." He forgot to mention that I was chief critic. I was always able to see the flaw in every person, every situation. And I was always glad to point it out, because I knew you wanted perfection just as I did. AA and acceptance have taught me that there is a bit of good in the worst of us, and a bit of bad in the best of us, that we are all children of God, and we each have a right to be here. When I complain about me or about you, I am complaining about God's handiwork. I am saying that I know better than God. For years I was sure the worst thing that could be, or could happen to a nice guy, like me, would be that I would turn out to be an alcoholic. Today I find it's the best thing that has ever happened to me. This proves I don't know what's good for me. And if I don't know what's good for me, then I don't know what's good or bad for you, or for anyone. So I'm better off if I don't give advice, don't figure I know what's best, and just accept life on life's terms, as it is today, especially my own life, as it actually is. Before AA, I judged myself by my intentions, while the world was judging me by my actions. There was much more in that passage, but I just needed to say it, and I think I needed to say it this morning because I've been out a couple of days ago, and I really thoroughly enjoyed going out to the theatre. And in the process of going out to the theatre, I was in good company. Fellows from the fellowship, and we all went to see another friend in fellowship doing a play. And that play was all about what is normal for people. And what's normal for an alcoholic is to be drinking themselves to death. But an alcoholic in recovery, what's normal for them is to be sober. Sober one day at a time. And find acceptance of that, life on life's terms. And it took me a long time to get there, because I was always looking at the outside world, trying to control it and judge it. And if I got all that right, then my drinking problem would not be a drinking problem. Indeed, it took me a long time to realise I had a drinking problem, because the world made me so angry I drank. So acceptance is key to life, and life on life's terms. It doesn't mean we're a walkover. Acceptance means seeing the reality of now, and then exploring the choices we have, and learning wisdom from other people. And in the daily reflections for today, May all about step 5, which is about sharing our life story with another human being. The ups and downs, the resentments, the anger, what happened, when. And it's a bit like a balance sheet of assets and liabilities. And of course the assets, which are enough courage, faith and confidence to greet each day and live sober, and the liabilities in me, fear, putting on a brave face, and my ego covering me up so I can't get out and share the truth, is all about learning how to be myself. So on May 14th today, it's okay to be me. Time after time, newcomers have tried to keep to themselves certain facts about their lives. They have turned to easier methods, but they had not learned enough humility. And as I say, humility for me is the ability to keep on learning even when it's tough, and tell the truth. Humility sounds much like humiliation, but it really is the ability to look at myself and honestly accept what I find. I no longer need to be the smartest or the dumbest, or any other est. Finally, it is okay to be me. It is easier for me to accept myself if I share my whole life. If I cannot share in meetings, then I had better have a sponsor, someone with whom I can share those certain facts, and that is the certain facts that maybe burn us so deep we still feel shame if everybody knew. Yes, I can share those certain facts that could lead me back to a drink to death. I need to take all the steps. I need the 5th step to learn true humility. Easier methods do not work. And when I say, for me, it is okay to be me, and it is okay for me to be understanding that I'm learning more about life today, and that sometimes things come up from the past, which I haven't thought about for years, and maybe I haven't covered in my life story. I often share everything in meetings, and it's important that I do, because the more people know about me, the more they can help me, or reject me, because sometimes there are things in our past which other people just cannot stomach or fathom. And even if that is the case, they stay away, and I don't have to try and be something to them. I don't have to resent them, shun them, or anger them. It's about being open, honest and willing and truthful to live life on life's terms. And once it's out there, if there is prejudice, what can I do about it? Accept it, of course. And there will be times when there is no prejudice. That's just the way it is. Judgment is judgment, wherever it comes from. But if we're stuck in that pattern of judging other people, we are still prejudiced against something inside us as well. So when I say forgive every day, everybody, every day, everything, I do mean it these days. It may take more than a few days sometimes to work through issues or problems or things from the past, but they do generally get to a place of forgiveness in me. So if I can forgive me, I need to forgive everybody else, or I would be certainly a two-faced whatever. So today, it's a beautiful morning just now, and the sun's come up. Could be a good day, I don't know. And when it's okay to be me, what it means for me is by the end of today I'll know more about who I am. I don't have to have a perfect identity. Progress, identifying who I may be today and what I may do. Some plans, yes. Some openness about what could happen next. Sharing, experiencing, being a part of, being included in the world again. That's all it need be. And we don't know where we fit until we're there. The serenity prayer, when I'm not sure about anything or I am absolutely certain about everything, always puts me back into balance, somewhere in the middle of not sure and sure about some things and other things. So to God, or in good conscience, as you come to understand, God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. For me, always, in the moment, and just for today. Don in London, hello. It's May 14th, 2009. My video is all about recovery from addiction to either substances or behaviour. My substance or favourite substance of addiction was alcohol. My behaviour, workaholic, relationshipaholic, any old olic, healthaholic, you name it. I would try to be perfect and never so. And I always start off that way because that's starts to remind me to slow down into the moment of now. And a friend of mine just texted me on my mobile saying, I feel not right about my situation. And often when that happens, it's because we can't accept what the status quo is, what it is like today. And for me, that's simply being able to see the truth of now, or being here in the now. That spiritual thing. The spiritual thing is something everybody does every single day, either to the good of life or to the less good of life. But we're all spiritual. You know, there's no big trick in this. There is no mountain you can climb and get a better view of spiritual. You just probably have a better view of what's on offer from the mountain. And whether we're in the valleys or wherever, there is beauty all around us. Now, I couldn't have said that 5 years ago, I don't think. Not with such certainty. But a lot has happened in the last few years, and that is about seeing the world as it is. And this thing about reality, with able to see, feel, touch, understand the world a little bit better without filtering it out and without denials about my situation, gives me a conscious contact with now. And you know, that is the spiritual leap, if you like, the leap into the ever-present moment of now, where it's timeless. We don't have to look backwards or forwards, we can just be now, in the being of now. And I'm emphasising that because often I go speeding along, rushing to find some sort of sanctuary, when in fact sanctuary is always with me if I stay in the ever-present moment. And that's hard because we know we have a finite amount of time. We want to feel good about ourselves, and we forget we need to do some very basic routines to keep ourselves well, especially if we're in recovery from addiction. And so I go to AA, the Fellowship of AA, Alcoholics Anonymous. I cannot speak for it. It is full of unique, authentic people who can speak for themselves if they wish to. And I can speak for myself here on YouTube about my recovery and how AA helps me. So at every meeting I go to so far, the AA preamble is shared, which explains what the fellowship can do. And it goes like this. Alcoholics Anonymous is a fellowship of men and women who share their experience, strength and hope with each other, that they may solve their common problem and help others to recover from alcoholism. The only requirement for membership is a desire to stop drinking. There are no dues or fees for AA membership. We are self-supporting through our own contributions. AA is not allied with any sect, denomination, politics, organisation or institution, does not wish to engage in any controversy, neither endorses nor opposes any causes. Our primary purpose is to stay sober and help other alcoholics to achieve sobriety. And so in that last sentence where it says, our primary purpose is to stay sober and help other alcoholics to achieve sobriety, the idea of being sober is in three ways: emotional, spiritual and physical. So my emotional sobriety is knowing what my feelings are on a daily basis, be they good feelings or bad feelings, how I really feel about now. And the physical is getting away from the need to medicate with drugs. And alcohol is a drug. It's the surest way to take the edge off our feelings, and if we do it for far too long we get stuck with it. So spiritual for me is now, and it's the greatest gift given to every person on the planet. And nobody's spiritual is better than another person's spiritual. We're all on the spiritual path, and it never changes. It's being in reality, being able to accept what is, and what we see, and what we may do to change our own lives. We have choices. So the gift for me always is being in the moment as much as possible, and having a weather eye for what is interesting to me, and for life to be happy, and to be a part of, to be included in this weird family, world, the community we live in, the society we live in, and utilise to good effect what is around me in the right way, which is me simply being the same size as other people, no bigger, no smaller, no less important or more important. So I suppose I've tempered down my ego, putting on a brave face and fearing life as if life was something to be feared always. So I'm just learning how to be human. Human being rather than human doing. And you know, we all get stuck in doing things because we think we'll get some pleasure out of it, when in fact being in the moment rather than doing the moment means we're actually understanding and savouring it. It's like a feast. Now sometimes some of the feast we won't like because it's not for us to like. We just don't like it. So we just learn gently the path to serenity is accepting how things are today and then working out what we can change. So AA, 12 steps, 12-step program of attitude and behavioural change if we choose to do so. And the biggest one we have is step 1, being powerless over alcohol if we take a drink and life becoming unmanageable. And then the other steps which follow are about living well. And that's in good health and good outlook, good emotions if we have them, or bad ones if we're suffering tragedy, and understanding this spiritual moment. And I use daily reflections here on YouTube just to explain a bit more about what's making my life work and tick, even when it's been horrible for the last few months with very bad bouts of depression. And if anybody suffers from depression, I know how bad it can get for me, so I can only imagine just how bad it can get for you. But right now it's stable and well managed professionally by people who know how to help me. So daily reflections is all about the 12 steps, 1 a month, and 5th month is step 5, sharing our fearless moral inventory, which is the good and bad of us, with another human being. We can share it with the inside of us, our good conscience and God. At the same time, if we express it to another, we have a better chance of understanding we're just human. And there are consequences to our lives and what we've done so far, which we need to face up to. So in the daily reflections for today, it says, it's okay to be me. Time after time, newcomers have tried to keep to themselves certain facts about their lives. They have turned to easier methods, but they had not learned enough humility. Humility sounds so much like humiliation, but it really is the ability to look at myself and honestly accept what I find. I no longer need to be the smartest or dumbest, or any other est. Finally, it's okay to be me. It is easier for me to accept myself if I share my whole life. If I cannot share in meetings, then I had better have a sponsor, someone with whom I can share those certain facts, whatever they are, which we fear. That could lead back to a drug, to death. And I need to take all the steps. I need the 5th step to learn true humility. Easier methods do not work. And the gift in that really is really understanding that every word that we use to describe what we've done in the past has been used millions of times. So, you know, if it's been used millions of times, we're not the first one to discover something about ourselves which we may not like. And how do you get to forgiveness? It's understanding, probably, that with all the information at our disposal at that particular time, we were doing the best we could do, even when it was the worst things we could do. And that's what addiction does to us, often. As Bill sees it, seeing as I've talked about spiritual being in the moment, page 101, I'm just doing these linearly, so this is how it's come out. The spiritual angle. How often do we sit in AA meetings and hear the speaker declare, "But I haven't got the spiritual angle." Prior to this statement, he has described a miracle of transformation which has occurred in him, not only his release from alcohol, but a complete change in his whole attitude toward life and the living of it. It is apparent to everyone else present that he has received a great gift, and that this gift is all out of proportion to anything that he may have expected from simple AA participation. So we in the audience smile and say to ourselves, well, that guy's just reeking with the spiritual angle, except that he doesn't seem to know it yet. And you know what? That's true of everybody, because if we're living in the moment, we are spiritual, and the better we can live in this present moment and understand it completely and get something out of it, not to the detriment of anybody else, but to the good of all, including ourselves, then we're probably on the right path, just for one day. So when I exhort a prayer or meditation to God or to good conscience, which goes, God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference, it's in the moment and just simply for one day.